Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we have Harrison on. Harrison is a real estate investor who sprinted to 50 rentals in just a year, or about a year, and now he's up to 70 units total. And he's a investor and flipper. So we're going to hear a little bit about his story and how he got there. So Harrison, welcome on, and just want to give everybody a little background on yourself.
Yes, Hunter, thank you so much for having me. I go by Harry Gold online. I also switch off between Harrison just to confuse everybody. So my story is I was working in corporate software sales up until 3.5 years ago. It was a pretty decent job, but I got let go. Um, by the time I was let go from that job, I already had about 4 or 5 rentals. I house hacked 3 times. And then I realized, well, house hacking is unsustainable for the simple reason that you can't just keep moving every time you want to invest more. I think it was a decent start, but from there I bought a couple turnkeys. I bought 3 turnkeys in Cleveland, Ohio, and then I quickly realized, and I obviously knew this going in, but if I just put down payments on turnkeys, I'm going to run out of cash. Even if they're great cash flow investments, if I wanted to replace my income, I couldn't just wait around until I saved that next 30K for the next down payment or whatever it may be. So I started with hard money, taking out short-term high interest debt on distressed homes or at least discounted homes. And then I would refinance into long-term debt. And I sprinted to 50 units in just over a year, like 13 months, if you actually look at the numbers. And then I refinanced out of all of those in the following year. Meanwhile, just continued to flip. And then now I'm actually increasing my flipping. The goal is to be actively flipping 8 projects at a time. Right now I'm doing like 3 or 4, and then I have a backlog to get to that 8. I'm just going to buy and sell as I go. Long-term goal is to get to 100 units that I fully own, and then just pay off debt. And that's the plan.
Cool. So you're relatively new to be doing that amount of volume. What what was it the loss of the job that made you want to pursue real estate that full time, or what was like the trigger that made you want to do that full as
Well,
this as your main
I
thing now?
always had a desire to work for myself, and I was uh, I was slowly pursuing that anyway, which is why I had the real estate investments and the house hacking experience and the out of state
Hmm.
investing experience. But losing the job basically gave me no choice. So I was, up against the wall, hungry to replace a paycheck, and I was like, as long as I'm buying houses at a discount, I'm increasing my equity and my net worth, and that should lead somewhere good. So that was the idea, and well, I've just kept at it ever since.
Yeah. So doing 50 with those 50 units that you purchased, were they something that you had to rehab at the time, or do you just want to dive in a little bit more about what those looked like when you purchased them?
Yeah, it was a combination. Some were just deeply discounted homes that I was able to get cheap enough to refinance. Some of them, I picked up a few packages. The biggest swing I took was an 8 property package of 22 units because there were some fourplexes and duplexes. And going into the deal, I knew it needed about 200K worth of renovations, and uh, to I only had 100K to work with. So I was like, okay, over the next couple of years, I'll have to figure out how to handle this. And then I ended up just flipping my way to profits to cover that remaining rehab. So yeah, I'm not sure if
So yeah, so no, so it was a mix with some were ready to go, some you had to repair. It with the your goal right now is to do 8 flips at a time. Is that something that you're going to be flipping all of them? Or are you keeping some of those as rentals and then selling some of those? Is it mixed as well?
it's definitely a mix. In the short term, I'm going to flip most of them because I need to scale up the cash reserves to get to the volume I want to do. But in the long
Hmm.
term, if I if I have anything that just doesn't sell for whatever reason, I'll just keep it and add it to my portfolio. That's kind of what I've been doing. Um,
Yeah.
it's funny that the properties that cash flow the best might look really good on paper, but it's also the single family homes. Maybe a single family home has a projected cash flow of 10%, but you're going to have a better tenant that stays longer and it might appreciate better. I think the appreciation is probably about the same versus a duplex where, you know, the cash flow, the projected cash flow is higher, but tenants might not be as happy there and they might not stay as long. So I'm perfectly happy. Any deal I get into, I have the expectation of I'm okay if I keep it. But
Yep.
these days, the majority is flips.
Okay. Cool. That makes sense. With buying so many units, you restructured your financing from short term to long term debt, and that's how you continue to be able to afford the properties. But is there any risk of what would you say your risk is of what the amount of debt you have versus your rentals? Are they all cash flowing right now, or are there some that are kind of break even, or do you even have some that are losing money, but they might be paying down the mortgage?
So on a net basis, because I am flipping, the cash flow is a smaller part of the picture. Collectively,
Hmm.
my rentals earn about 40,000 a month in rent on 30,000 a month worth of mortgages.
Okay.
I so that the remainder covers payroll for my property manager, maintenance guy, whoever else. So collectively, as a portfolio alone today, it's not really going to be a life changer. But the flipping is really where I can make 30K from a single flip, and I have multiple going at a time.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Um, a little background. So like we haven't met before, but I mean, I do land, right? So it's a
Yeah,
little different from what you do. But still some overlaps. So what I do is I buy vacant land and I just flip it. So usually there's not too much that I'm doing to it. Sometimes I'll make improvements to it. So if it's rural land, I might put a driveway in and then clear it out a little bit. So then somebody could go camping on it, or they might build a cabin on it or something. But very, very limited amount of work is done to the properties.
mhm,
Generally, it's just flipping. Um, with those, a lot of the properties that I buy, I sell them on seller financing. So that becomes sort of like my passive income right there. And then
yeah.
I
I was very curious.
sell, yeah, yeah. So I sell some on the seller financing, which becomes my passive income. And then I'm also flipping some for cash. So then the passive income, they're not huge. Like, you might get three, four, five, maybe up to $1,000 a month for like some of the really good properties. But on average, it's about $500 a month on a property. So not huge on its own, but when you do
Yeah,
numbers, it starts to add up together. And then
mhm,
the ones that I flip for cash, those are the ones that you get a bigger pile that I can go and buy more properties with. So it's kind of like the same model as you're doing. It's just instead of rentals, I have seller financing and
got
flipping
it.
land. So
Right. So
yeah,
you have your cash generator, which is flipping land, and then you have your residual generator, which is selling properties on seller finance.
yep, yeah, and it's land that I sell on seller financing as well. But it's that's how it becomes my passive
Okay. Yeah.
income,
So yeah, no,
right?
it's very similar because we both have like the short term goal and the long term building the residual. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I think I'm assuming even in the video I posted today, there's probably a lot less headache with just land because not as much can go wrong. You're not going to have a ceiling randomly cave in.
Yeah,
Or
that's where like when you say you have 50 units, that sounds like a headache to me because that's a lot of things that
yeah,
I would think could go wrong. So that's why I like land. I don't have those things that happen. But how stressful is it for you? Do you have, I suppose your property manager handles a lot of it, but do you have any situations where something bad happens that you have to step in?
yeah. So right now I have a hybrid approach, and I'm not going to pretend I'm the end all be all of knowledge. I just do my thing and happen to post online about it. That being said, I've really been through it as far as property managers and the inability to trust them. I've tried iteration after iteration. So what I'm doing today, I actually feel pretty good about, which is I am physically on the ground half the time. So if I need
Hmm.
to check out a property or meet a tenant face to face, I will. And I have a virtual property manager. So if there's any sort of confusion of like, oh, does someone live there? Are the utilities on? Are we dealing with a decent human being or should we just evict them? I will literally be the face of my own management company, but then I have
Hmm.
all of the busy work outsourced to a virtual assistant.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That helps a lot. So all
Yeah.
of your units, are they where you live, or I might have missed it. If you said, do you live somewhere else now? And you Do you go back and
Yeah.
forth
Well,
or?
well, right now I'm splitting my time between San Diego, California, which I
Okay.
intend to be long-term home, and Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm basically doing a 2-week rotation, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Okay. Is that just for San Diego is the lifestyle? You like it there and that's why you wanted to move there, not investing wise?
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, so I'm a
Okay.
SoCal native, and I think yeah, the lifestyle, the weather, the people, the proximity
Hmm.
to my parents, niece and nephew and brother. So
Okay.
I have no personal connection to Cleveland, really just business, and obviously I'm there a lot
Hmm.
now. So of course I've made some very valuable connections since, but that was an investment opportunity. San Diego, there's probably some point in the future where I'll try to bring my income closer to home, but that's too far down the horizon for me to think about in the short term.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure the numbers look a lot different San Diego versus Ohio.
Oh
Uh,
man, yeah.
with with buying those deals in Ohio, how did you find those? Because to be able to buy properties that are cash flowing like
Mhm.
that with maybe just a little bit of work or even no work, how do you find deals like that?
I really, for better for worse, I attack almost everything with the idea of no stone left unturned. So if you actually look at my acquisitions, I would say a hefty percentage, maybe 30 to 40%, especially my early acquisitions, actually came from the lender that was willing to finance all those
Okay.
properties for me. So it was a unique scenario
Hmm.
where he was willing to finance the purchase price and renovation. It never seemed to be the full renovation, but it was always enough to get cash back at close. And
Okay.
easily a third of my initial acquisitions were through that lender. Since, because I've flipped like 20 properties and acquired more. So since then, since the initial 50, it's it's like maybe I've gotten like a couple from that guy, and I mostly focus on buying from wholesalers. I post on Instagram asking for deals. I go on Facebook. Sometimes I find stuff straight off of Zillow. You know, I use Investor Lift. I almost rotate. I'll be like, I actually at one point made a page. Hey, on Mondays, I'm going to look at everything on Investor Lift. On Tuesdays, I'm going to look at everything on Zillow. On Wednesdays, I'm going to contact every wholesaler in my phone. So it's really like, I just go after it in every which way.
Yeah. That sounds good. I mean, it's good that you have a system like that because that's where a lot of people get caught up is they might get a couple deals and then they don't have any system that they follow.
Mhm.
So even something
Yeah.
like that, just having a Monday you do this, Tuesday you do this is something that a lot of people that aren't having consistent deal flow, like something like that would definitely help.
I have a spreadsheet where I accumulate addresses from different sources. I say the date I found it, who it came from, and then some details about the deal. And then I just add to it over time. And so especially some of these distressed homes, they might sit for months because no one wants to deal with them. And eventually an ask price that seemed unreasonable before, maybe now the seller is willing to take half of what they're originally
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah. That follow up is huge.
Now,
With these leads that you or sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask you the equal question. How do you typically find your land deals?
Yeah. I definitely don't do as much of it like you do, where you're getting it from, wholesalers or investor lift or anything like that. I'm going straight to the owner. So
Hmm.
a lot of outbound marketing. So it's changed over the years as land's got more popular. I've been doing it for 7 years now.
Hmm.
It's changed a little bit in the last couple years of how people do outreach, but when it started, I didn't know anything. I didn't have any money, so I did cold calling, and then I transitioned to doing direct mail, and that's where I stood for quite a few years. Was just doing mail, and now I do everything. So it's direct mail, texting, cold calling, um, and email too. So it's just
Right? No
straight up
stone left
pulling.
unturned. Doing all of
Yeah, and it's just pulling lists of motivated or potentially motivated, right? So people that are tax delinquent, people that live out of state, maybe like quit claim deeds or somebody who has a potentially an unclear title or somebody who's probably a motivated seller, pulling those lists and then just doing outreach. So not much that I'm actually buying from other people. Um, But why do you do all the contact then for your acquisitions? Do you have a VA or somebody who handles a lot of that, or do you do it all yourself right now?
No, at this time I do it myself. I find it to be my highest value task. And
Hmm.
even more specifically, as often as possible, I'll try to walk the deals myself in Cleveland, or my business partner will do it because we've learned that the best connections come from the people that are actually showing you the home. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of wholesalers that are daisy chaining. Whereas, so if I send someone that represents me and we got into contact with them from someone who knows someone, and then the property is shown to my contact by someone else, all of a sudden there's like six parties involved. So I actually like to physically walk the property myself whenever I can. And as far as like actually building the list and actually, you know, finding the deal, there's some wholesalers that I like to work with, but it's still
Hmm.
myself at the end of the day analyzing the deal and deciding what to move forward on and doing some of the follow up as well.
Yeah. Um, with with my deals, I did it all myself for a long time too, and I try to hand it off over time, right? So at first, I did everything, and then I handed it off where somebody would put the list together, and then I put together where they put the list together, and then they would call those lists or send out the mail or do the marketing for it, and then I would just take the inbound. So then at least like the front half was taken care of, and then I just had more motivated people that I could filter through, and
Mhm.
more recently, I've handed it off all the way now, so like
Amazing.
the whole process is taken care of, and it definitely you don't get as good at deals, right? Like you said, your best time spent is probably on the acquisitions because you're it's just that's just how it is. Like you care the most out of anybody, so you're gonna find the best deals. But it allows a little bit more free time for me then, where I can then focus on maybe very specific areas. Then, so now it's kind of taking care of itself, and then I just focus on like if there's a market that's going well, I'll go and dive into that a little bit deeper, and then that's what I'll take care of and handle maybe some of either creating the list or like who I want contacted or something like that. But it
I will outsource it at some point. It's just kind of like the last piece. If that
yep.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely your best time spent, in my opinion, for sure, is closing on the deals. Cause the buy price that's your profit, right? Like whatever you get it
Yes.
under contract at, like that determines
Mhm.
if you're going to make money or not. So it's definitely the most important part.
I'll
How,
probably selling first, selling my turnkeys because at the end of the day, if it's a good product, it'll sell. It doesn't matter what I have to say about it.
yeah. So how do you sell your properties right now?
Every once in a while, I make a list. I make a video on Instagram saying, "Text me at this number if you're interested in being on my buyers list for turnkeys." So that's kind of the social media is my marketing, and then I get leads that way. And so today I
Hmm.
sent out like 60 text messages to people that had joined that list in the past. And also, there's a few bulk buyers I work with. There's one guy that represents foreign buyers that's able to broker deals out. And then there's actually an organization that buys, um, like their whole business model is to source Section 8 investments. And then on top of that, I am in contact with guys like Section 8 Kareem and Richard Taylor and Tom Cruise to some degree. And like they have huge audiences that want this stuff. So I feel like
Hmm.
there's no shortage of demand. There's only a shortage of my ability to produce all of the renovations that I'm signing up to produce.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think that's one thing that varies between land and what you're doing is land. It's a little bit easier to find deals, and then the dispo part is usually the harder part. Selling
Mhm.
them is hard. But if you have buyers, it's easier to sell. Then it kind of makes it seems like the process goes a lot smoother as long as you're able to find the deals. Then you know that you're able to sell them. Um,
Yeah.
with selling them, then if somebody wanted to buy a deal from you, they should just go to your Instagram or
Oh yeah.
do
I
you have a
mean,
website or
I have a dedicated phone number, 216-200-6910. Someone can text or call that anytime, letting me know that they're interested in buying a turnkey. I do also check all of my Instagram DMs. So, although I'm a little bit slower at that, because I could get like 20 at a time and then, you know, get to it eventually. Of course, they could also join the community as well. But I mean, if you're hitting that phone line and asking me about my turnkey, I'm gonna let you know about it soon because that's how I make my money.
yeah. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Section 8 because with these rentals, a lot of them you said are in Section 8. How
Yes.
do you want to give a lot of my viewers probably don't even know how it works necessarily. So I just want to
Yeah.
give like a quick background of Section 8, how somebody can get approved to rent a Section 8 and like kind of
Yeah.
how did you get into that too?
By the way, some more background. I actually lived in Las Vegas for 3.5 years. Um, I
Okay.
was there. Yeah, and it appears like you either live there or spend a lot of time there yourself.
I snowbird. I go back and forth. So I'm there in the winter and then I'm in Minnesota in the summer.
Got it. Okay. So I lived there from 2020 to the beginning of 2024. And basically I got my first Section 8 renter in Las Vegas because the only one that was willing to pay the rent that I was asking for was a voucher holder. And I said, okay, sounds good. My property manager is going to deal with it. Just some more paperwork on their end. It was a nice home that I myself had lived in up until that point. Um, so I knew about it, and then I did come across Tom Cruise's Section 8 Secrets course, and I realized like, man, I've got this home in Las Vegas worth 300K, cash flows 500 a month. Meanwhile, I could buy a house in Cleveland, and this is 3 years ago already, and for 60K, a fifth the price, and still had that same 500 a month cash flow numbers. Now, of course, my business model has changed a little bit since then. Prices have changed, but the thought that wow, I could buy something for one fifth the price and have the same net cash flow was like mind blowing to me. So I really doubled down on that concept. And the thing about Section 8 is you could buy cheaper homes in rougher neighborhoods and get top dollar, maybe even higher than top dollar for rent. So something that might not cash flow super well by itself all of a sudden is like a 20% to 30% return on your down payment because you have a Section 8 tenant. Now, like for example, I was looking at a property today. A 3 bedroom market rent is 1180. Same unit on Section 8 is 1380. That $200 difference is huge for your bottom line, especially if it's a duplex or a triplex. It's like a completely different investment at that point. Then there's also just the added benefit of now you could buy in C or maybe even D class neighborhoods and still fill them with quality tenants where you're going to continue to collect rent because it's government assistance. It's not like the doctor or the lawyer or someone with a perfect credit score. It's like someone that's just getting government subsidized housing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, cool. Yeah, no, so you started off, you had this house that you thought about renting out, and then you saw the difference between something that costs 300,000 versus what's an average house, like 100,000 for Section 8, or what's like
Yeah.
a
So these days, these days in Cleveland, I'm confident you could find a solid single family home investment for about 80K.
80?
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad. Then
Well,
with
so for
with
example, yeah, one of my duplexes that I'm working on selling right now, it's a duplex for 125, and I'm selling it for as much as I think I can get for it, and that's
Mhm.
that's still 60K per door,
Yeah, yeah. One thing I've always compared between the two for ways that you like creative ways to rent out a property is you can rent out Section 8 or you could rent out by the bedroom. Is that
Yep.
something that you've explored before, is renting out by the room?
Yeah, so when I was house hacking, I lived in a 3 bedroom, then a 2 bedroom, then a 3 bedroom, and each of those times I rented out the extra bedrooms,
Okay.
sometimes to random people I found on Craigslist or Roomster, and sometimes to friends. Um, on a bigger scale, I don't love it because when you have when you have multiple bedrooms, or if you're even creating extra bedrooms, that's just more traffic, it's more unknowns, it's more turnover. I think cash flow is amazing. And the most amazing thing about cash flow is it allows you to leverage. And leverage allows you to get rich. If at the end of the day, if your thing cash flows 400 a month or 600 a month because you squeeze the juice out of it and add an extra bedroom, you know, the power play is owning a bunch of real estate that goes up in value. So I
Hmm.
don't think it's worth the headache because now management fees are higher. Now you have to allow for more vacancies. Now I have to charge less per bedroom because um, they're dealing with more traffic in their own home. And then you're probably also dealing with tenants that might be less qualified. I'm just saying, I think it's a good strategy that works in certain instances. I think generally speaking, at scale, the juice is probably not worth the squeeze.
Yeah. So at low volume, if somebody has one or two places that they're renting out, it might make more sense to do renting by the room. But then as you start to scale up, it becomes hard to either qualify so many tenants or manage that many people and to actually scale and do numbers and get the equity of having multiple properties. That's where Section 8 can be a huge advantage where you don't have as much turnover and things that can go wrong with multiple tenants.
I
Um,
mean, so like Las Vegas, just because I know some of the neighborhoods there. Like, if you get like a nice big house in Henderson with 6 bedrooms and there's a ton of parking and everyone has their own space and you happen to own it as a long-term investment and you can't really rent it for what you want to rent it for, go ahead, rent it out by the bedroom. But if you've got like
mhm.
a townhome where parking is already limited and the bedrooms are also like it would already feel crowded just based on the layout. Like, don't if you're going to make people suffer, it's just not going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, yeah, Las Vegas is probably one of the better cities for doing rent by room compared to
Yes.
Ohio is probably a lot harder to find people that are used to that. Because
Yeah.
with Las Vegas, one thing is you have people from California who are used to renting rooms moving
Hmm.
there. So it's already that people are used to it and the price is so much cheaper. So
But
I think it's a really
in
small
certain cases,
instance where it makes sense.
right, you get more land, you might get more parking, and it's just a different conversation. Whereas like there's a very significant difference in Cleveland between renting out a single family home and a duplex. And these people, some of them are like they insist on, hey, I only want to live in a single family home. It's like, look, the government's paying you rent. Like this is a nice duplex, Sorry, but so it's different markets for sure have different rules that will apply.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I'm going to do a quick read from the sponsor, and then after that, I think we could talk about maybe some of your good deals or some of the best deals, and then we'll talk about some of the bad deals. So,
Absolutely, sounds good.
um, cool. So, this episode is brought to you by DirectREI. Look, if you're doing your own outreach right now, you already know the grind, pulling lists, skip tracing, firing off texts and mailers, and then trying to keep up with every reply across 5 different apps. DirectREI puts that all in one place. It's an AI acquisition platform with built-in CRM. Here's what it actually does for you. It sources the leads straight from county records. It skip traces and enriches your contacts automatically. It writes your sequences and it runs your campaigns across email, text, direct mail, and phone, all from your dashboard. It tracks across every channel so you know what's working. And when the deal comes together, you can send contracts and collect e-signatures right in the platform. And here's the real thing. You don't have to run all that yourself. There's an AI acquisitions manager that's built in and it operates the whole thing for you. It finds the leads, launches the campaigns, and works every channel. So when somebody replies, it drafts the response back in your voice and it sounds like you, not a robot. It runs your entire pipeline in the background day and night and only taps you in when there's a deal that's worth your attention. So you stay in control, you close the deals, it handles the busy work that's been eating your nights, and there's a free plan available, so you're not risking anything. Go to directrei.com, hit try free, and let us start working your list today. That's directrei.com. So let's go back to the show. So with having 70 doors, what is one of the biggest deals that you've got? What's the biggest profit on a deal or biggest,
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't sold some of them, but what's the most equity you've got in some of the deals?
Oh my gosh. So there's one clear winner. There's one clear winner, and that is a fourplex in zip code 44113. And I bought it as part of the 8 unit package that I like, the 8 property package where it was going to cost 200K for me to renovate. I only had 100K to work with at the time. So
Hmm.
this was one of those fourplexes. My original purchase price was 225. I want to say maybe I did some renovations to it. Let's say like 50K. Um, and the first appraisal. So this was going back 2 years. It appraised for 390.
Nice.
So yeah, so I ended up getting a nice cash out refinance from that. So I don't know, 75% of 390, 290. I don't know. I got probably a 50K cash out refinance from that. And then just 1 year later, the same fourplex appraised for 500K. So I
Oh
was able
wow.
to get, yeah, I was able to get another like 75K cash out refinance. And because this neighborhood has just skyrocketed in value, um, it still cash flows, and it's like a great property that's gonna. I mean, I hope it keeps going up in value at that rate. You know, that'd be insane. That'd just be that
Oh
would just be
yeah.
100K a year to just chill. Um, but yeah, that's by far my biggest winner. That's not typical. You know,
hmm
you can't bet on being early to a neighborhood that's just going to instantly turn around. Um, the city started doing um, tax abatements, some sort of tax incentive to keep the property taxes low, even if you buy the home at a higher rate. And it's like a 20-year period where the taxes are just going to stay the same. So you just see these like 500K townhomes popping up all around this neighborhood, and the buyers get super low taxes. By the way, taxes in Cleveland are like 2.5% of the property, so that's relatively high
Yeah.
uh, on a per property basis. But it's basically Cleveland saying, "Hey, we're gonna pump up this neighborhood," which is really cool.
Yeah, no, that's a huge win from one deal. Do you think the reason that you were able to get that one was because it was in a package deal and maybe some of the other ones weren't as good? And to follow up with that, do you
Yeah.
recommend people buy package deals if possible?
Yeah. So within that package, there was one particular duplex that I literally I had to flip properties for months just to come up with the renovation budget for that one. And then I basically broke even when I eventually did flip it. And my only win was just getting out of the hard money. And then, of course, applying a turnkey investment to a buyer. Um,
hmm
it just depends on what your goals are. When I started, I, I had some real estate equity from my initial purchases, and I had the ability to tap into that equity. So it's going to sound silly, but maximizing my profits was not my initial goal. My initial goal was increasing my unit count, getting that experience, getting that track record, um, and just learning. Because I, when I started, I wasn't smart enough to know the difference between the best deal ever and a deal to avoid all costs. You know, like if you tell me
hmm
today that there's a condemned home, you know, I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. But if you tell me that 2 years ago, you know, I'm like, okay, well, let's roll the dice. Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's something I can figure out. Um,
Yeah.
so it depends on where you're at. It depends on your risk tolerance. If your goal is to really just plow through as many acquisitions as you can, of course, taking on a package is a shortcut to doing that. I think it has its merits to some degree if you have some cash on the side.
Yeah. Makes sense. I like that how you explained it was not necessarily for as much profit as possible, it's just to gain the experience, which
Yes.
I mean as long as you didn't lose money, I'd say that's like a win on your first deal. If you're able to flip something or get a rental or something that's not losing money, even if it's not making money or a ton of money, it's probably a win because you got the experience, which you might have had to pay somebody to learn a lot about that experience. So if you're able to do that, then not have to not lose money. That's a win.
Now, to be clear, don't you know? I wasn't just recklessly, blindly just throwing money around. The numbers on the package, the purchase price was 985,000, and then I got 100K to renovate it, and the ARV was 1.7 million. So when I acquired the deal, and I knew I had to come up with another 100K. So
hmm
basically, I was all in for 1.2, but it was worth 1.7. So based on the numbers, I'm still like, okay, I'm picking up 500K in real estate equity. So it wasn't like I wasn't like digging a hole. I just had to
Yeah.
maneuver. Okay, what do I renovate first? You know, how do I come up with the cash? What do I refinance first? Et cetera, et cetera. So even though um, I mean, you could overpay for a package all day and then, you know, get a billion units and then go bankrupt in 6 months. So I'm not, you know, there's no circumstance where you should be absolutely reckless. You should still be checking numbers, checking comps, um, checking rehab budgets, getting multiple opinions, and uh, and then just really understanding what you're getting into, regardless.
Yeah. Is there a range of people that are selling packages? Like, for example, would somebody who has like eight properties like this, could they be a tired landlord that's looking to sell compared to somebody else who's maybe fixed them up and now they're trying to sell them together to as an investment? Like, is that common that you have different scenarios like that, or where do you see most people selling packages come from?
I really haven't looked at packages lately, but there was a hard money lender that would just say, "Hey, we've got a borrower that is not performing, and you could take all of these." Um,
Okay.
there's some specific websites though. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there was a website that specifically was for listing packages. I'd
Huh.
have to look for it, but
Okay.
I'll have to come
Yeah.
back to that.
With land, I buy a lot of stuff in, I mean, you could call it packages, but it's not where somebody packages it together. It's where the seller has multiple properties, and usually we get it at a discount because it's a lot of work to sell land. Like that's our offer to people is we're going to buy it from you for cash and we'll make it simple to sell. So
Yeah.
when somebody owns, five, six different properties, pieces of land, if they
Mhm.
want to go and sell them all on their own, it'd take months to do so and it'd be a little bit more effort. So generally we're getting a good deal when we're buying it in a group because we're just giving them a cash offer for all their properties. And sometimes some are better than others. But like you said, you still want to have, like, we still look at every property that's going to be purchased in that package and make sure that overall we're making money on the entire thing. But with land, usually if you're buying it in a group, it's a lot better of a deal compared to individually. Because the other thing too is closing costs eat into it. With the properties that I buy, usually my sales price, like when I'm selling the land at, is around 50 grand.
Mhm.
So on the flip side, when I'm buying it, I usually don't want to pay more than a third of what I think it's going to sell for. So a lot of the stuff I'm buying stuff for a couple $1,000s or 5 grand or 10 grand or 15, somewhere in there. But when your closing costs are 2 grand, like that in comparison, when you're buying something that's only worth 5 grand, that's
Mhm.
30, 40% of your entire purchase price. So if you're buying it in a whole group together, you can kind of reduce a lot of your
Hmm.
closing costs,
So
which is nice.
what would you say is your like cookie cutter deal? Like what's like if you run the numbers on it, you see it so often you would do that all day.
Yeah. I usually buy stuff. I'm buying it at 5 and selling it for 30. Like that's the
Nice.
most common deal. Like if you look at my CRM and you look at my averages, that's what it would
That's
be.
great.
That's the average.
That's
So
what's
um
your turnover period? How long are you holding on to that?
usually it's a well, there's a caveat because I sell a lot of them on seller financing, right? So
Uh-huh.
I might sell it, but then it will be a 5 year term before
Mhm.
it's sold all the way through. But
Got it.
generally, it's being marketed for from the day I close on the property, like purchase it, to from when it's sold, either for cash or for seller financing. It's usually about 90 days. Um, I like to hit that amount too, because if I sell it and if I list it and it sells in a week, that usually means I priced it too low. And if it takes longer than 90 days, I found that it doesn't really, I'm not going to get much more than I could have if I just reduced the price on it. Because land does take longer to sell. Like it does take longer to find the right buyer. There's not as many people compared to looking for their primary home. So
What what's a typical
it does
buyer
take
like?
time.
So who's buying land and on seller finance typically?
Yeah. There's a lot of different categories of land and what you can flip. So I focus on recreational land. So stuff where somebody's going to be camping on it or putting a cabin on it or hunting it or um, like that category. So generally when I'm selling it to somebody on seller financing, it's somebody who wants to have like a recreational property where they're going to put a camper on it and they're going to go there in the summer, or they're going to go hunting on the property, or they're buying it and they're going to build like a cabin on the property. So it's somebody who generally has something already and they're doing something recreational with it. I also have
Yeah.
a subset of people that are like lower income, so that are also seller financing it, where they might actually live on the property. So they might have a mobile home, like they might be in a trailer park, and they're paying trailer park rent of $800 a month or whatever it is to live there. So they end up just buying a trailer and moving it to the property and pay, three, four, $500 a month, and then in 5 years they're going to own it instead of paying rent. So
Oh, that's
there, I
brilliant.
have yeah, so I have a few
Yeah,
people that end up doing that too, but
that's great.
that's the niche for the most part. But there's a lot of different ways you can flip land and a lot of different
Right. So I like
strategies.
that trailer park example because it probably happens on a recurring basis. They're saying I'm paying 800 a month where I'm at, and then at the end of 5 years, I just keep paying 800 a month. Versus they buy land
Yep.
from you, it could be even in the same city, and now their monthly payment is reduced, and at the end of 5 years, they have no more payment except for maybe taxes. And so they're like, that's a come up for them. Or also the other, some of the other examples, they're looking to improve the land. So whatever their monthly payment to you is peanuts compared to having to buy the land outright. I mean, even at your price, like if you're buying it for five, they might not have five, but they might have 500 a month for the next few years, and whatever whatever they're doing to improve the land. So yeah, that's cool. No, I always love looking at both sides of the coin,
Yeah.
because it makes it. That's how you know it's sustainable. If everyone's winning, then you know you can just keep winning, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Everybody has to have their interest of why they're doing it. So it,
Mhm.
it makes sense. Like when I'm buying the property, we're giving them, cash offers. So they're getting out of it easy. It's quick for them to do. So that's our benefit to the seller. Then when we're selling it, if I'm selling it for seller financing, it works for me because I get more money than if I were to sell it for cash because I get to charge interest. And generally, I get to charge a higher price on just the price of the property because I'm creating accessibility to people that wouldn't be able to buy it outright anyway. So then the other people that are buying it from me, they can buy it for a very low amount down and a low monthly payment, and they don't need the money up front. So it kind of works out all around,
Yeah,
as
great.
long as you have good properties.
So how many properties do you have on seller finance right now that you've sold?
Um, let's see.
And that's residual that you don't have to really maintain at all. You just have to check if they paid you.
Yeah, it's a little bit over 100. I have like 120 something, 130, 130
Oh, that's amazing.
properties.
Cool.
That number changes very often because you get people
Mhm.
that default every month, you get people
Yeah.
that pay it off every month, and then I
Mhm.
sell new properties. So it changes quite often, which again is fine with me because if somebody defaults, we don't want them to, but if they default, I get to keep the property, I get to keep the money from it so far.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of times people make improvements to it as well. So then I get to sell it for even more. Like I just got back one where I sold it to them. It was just raw land. It was just nothing.
Mhm.
And they went in, they put a gravel driveway in, they cleared it out, they put a trailer on it, they put in electricity, and then
Mhm.
they just decided they didn't want it anymore. Um, and they
They
weren't far
they
enough into the,
not paying?
yeah, it's funny. Some people like, I, I try to work with them. So like I reach out to them like, hey, like, do you want to, like I can refinance it with you. Like I can give you a break. Like if
Mhm.
you can't pay it this month, like it's fine. Like I'm usually pretty lenient with people.
Mhm.
Um, but when they don't reply, like in this case, they just don't reply. It's like, I can't
Mhm.
do anything. Like I can't cut you a break at all if you don't tell me what's up.
Yeah.
So one fun thing I'll do is I'll text them from a different number. So if it's
Uh-huh.
like, John is late, I'll text them from another number. I'll be like, hey, John, how's it going? And then, and then they'll reply to me on that number. And then I'll be like, oh, John, by the way, this is Hunter. You're late on your payments. I was wondering if,
Mhm.
and then I don't hear from them again. So it's like, I know this person, they're getting
So
my messages. They're just not replying to me. But
so what's the legal action like when you repossess a property? I mean, if I have a tenant that's not paying, I just evict them. And if
yeah,
I
it
have,
depends.
go ahead.
It depends on the state. So, and the document that you use. So, in some states you'll use a contract for deed. In some states you'll use a deed of trust. But generally every state has a process that you follow, and it's pretty straightforward. So, like if it's in a state where it's a contract for deed, it might be something where you give them a notice that they're
Mhm.
late, and then a month after that notice, you can they can either sign a cancellation agreement with you, and if they sign that, then great, then that's all you have to do. Um, and then if they don't, then you can go through kind of a foreclosure process, but it's not really a foreclosure. It's just uh, sending in the documents that show that this person hasn't paid, and um, then the
You have to,
county will cancel the contract for you. But every state's different. It's pretty straightforward depending where you are.
have you ever had to remove someone from your land?
Not where they've been paying on it, and then I had to remove them. I have people that are
No,
just
right.
like squatters.
Yeah, like they
Um,
stopped and then you had to remove them.
yeah, I've had a few like squatters where they just had like I have a piece of property that has a driveway on it and it's in the woods.
Yeah.
They just pull up with their camper and go camping on it. Or
Mm.
I've had like homeless people too, I guess, on it. But that is just you call the sheriff and there's people trespassing, and that's pretty
Cool.
easy. I've had
Nice.
I've never had it where somebody has just like stopped paying and they refuse to leave the property. Like everybody,
Okay.
for the most part, just they know that they're not paying for it, they're gonna leave. So
Well, that's good for you. I can't say the same about squatters in my properties. I've had to go through processes and hey, you gotta go, you gotta leave, and I'm not physically gonna drag them out myself. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's a good
I
topic. What's the worst thing that you've had happen, or something like the horror stories
oh
with
man, so
rentals?
there was one tenant named Lavonda, and basically, I got into this flip, and the house was such a disaster. And I'm like, this is not habitable for anyone. You're just gonna like fall through the floor. There's no way it's sanitary. And I basically said to this lady, look, I have to renovate this home. I've got another duplex across town, and it's on the bottom of my list to renovate because I already had it on long term financing and in a portfolio. So because it's on a portfolio loan, it would be difficult to sell. And because it's on long term financing, I don't really, there's no urgency to sell it. So I'm like,
Hmm.
if you can just be out of here in 24 hours, you could just go stay in that duplex. It's a win for me because now I have a house sitter in a low priority property, and it's a win for you, and it's an even double win for me because I'm just removing a squatter, right? So, um, she ended up staying there for 6 months, and it was no problem. I was like, feel free, do your thing. I didn't care. But then after that 6 month period, I was like, okay, I need to start collecting rent. I finished renovating the first property. The issue was I had so many property managers over the following 6 month period that were just bad at their job. And so I knew I wanted to evict her, but no property manager was willing to follow through on it. Or the property
Hmm.
manager was just not good for other reasons. So I ended up letting them go. So there was a subsequent 6 month period where I wanted her out, but I didn't have anyone that was just able to follow through on an eviction. So
Yeah.
when I started personally spending time in Cleveland back in March, within the first week, I'm like, hey, you got to go. She's like, oh, but I'm going to pay. And I'm like, okay. So she handed me a check for a security deposit and first month's rent. And I'm like, if this works, that's okay because I'd probably have to pay a few thousand to renovate the unit. And it was still a lower priority property for all the reasons I said before. Um,
Hmm.
I bounced. So I was there the next day with a notice. Um,
Yep.
I talked to my eviction lawyer. He didn't like the notice. I posted another notice. Lady's upset at me. And I'm like, like the most
Yeah.
annoying thing is
You've been here what, a year now? It's
yeah,
time
she's
to
there for a
pay.
year. The most annoying thing is when you have a squatter that's not paying and then they ask you to do repairs. And I'm like, just what are you talking about? So, um,
Yeah.
so I went through a formal eviction process and it took about 2.5 months. And then the sheriff physically removed her and I had to be there
Wow.
and they took out all of her stuff and I watched it happen. We changed the locks and now she's gone finally. And if she ever steps foot back there, it's a serious crime for trespassing. So
Yeah. Wow. Is that the only one you've had to go all the way with?
that's the only one that I've had to go all the way with where, yeah, yep. There's another one I evicted. I think the guy ultimately just left after his court hearing, but no, that's the only one where I had to fully go through the full process. And it only took 2.5 months
Yeah.
once I actually started doing it.
That's yeah. Is Ohio a pretty good state for evictions then?
Relatively, yes. A place like
Okay.
California, the same process will take you like a year.
Yeah. Well, that's not
Yeah.
too bad of a rate then. 1 out of 70 that you've had to fully evict, and it's
Yeah,
part of the
no, it's
business.
yeah, it's not that bad. I have another tenant recently that's like asking me to evict her. I don't understand. I'm like, just leave. Just go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm evicting her too. We'll see how far that one has to be taken. She'll probably also just disappear. No one wants to be dragged out by the sheriff. I mean,
Yeah, something that could be avoidable for sure.
Yeah, seriously.
With one thing you mentioned earlier was with Section 8. Yeah, just how it is. I mean, it's guaranteed income from the government. Does that affect anything with evictions? Like that person, they won't be able to get Section 8 again, right? If they get evicted, or they can't even
Oh
get
yeah.
evicted if they're on Section 8, or how's that play over?
I've heard that. Um, there's one agency I go through when I give them my listing. They specifically ask if I'm okay with taking in people that have had evictions. So
Mm,
I don't think that that's necessarily true. Um,
okay.
there is a major caveat to the guaranteed rent, which is you get annual inspections on your properties, and well, there's also move-in inspections. But assuming someone's already in, you still have your annual inspections, and they could fail you for really stupid stuff like chipping paint or um, or maybe that the tenant doesn't keep the unit clean enough and you have to fix that. Or like if you don't fix it, or if the tenant doesn't fix it, they just stop paying. It's ridiculous.
Hmm.
Like the housing authority can stop paying you for something that the tenant is doing wrong, which is like that's like the most frustrating thing because it's not even really within your control. And then
Okay.
you have to evict that. Um,
Okay. So there is some risk still with Section 8 as to getting your rent or not. Um,
yes.
there's some caveats, I suppose.
Yeah. So Section 8's not at the end all be all. It's at least in the market where I'm doing it. Number one biggest pain is just the simple delay. Like if I get a private pay tenant that's ready to move in tomorrow with a security deposit, they can go ahead. One of the
Hmm.
primary organizations I use, it takes on average 30 days for them to approve a rent amount, and then you have to have an inspection. In that inspection, there's a lot of standard stuff like every outlet has to work, there has to be a smoke alarm in every room, um, et cetera, et cetera. And so the things that they're asking for are things that I should be doing anyway as a landlord. But a lot of these inspectors, I might be exposing them, but a lot of them are incentivized by the number of times they show up. They're not paid hourly, they're
Mm.
not paid salary, they're paid based on the number of inspections they do. So they might just make up some bogus reason to fail you just so they could come back. I've had a I've had someone fail me because there was a rolled up piece of carpet in the closet, and I'm like, I'll just put that in my car right now. She still took a picture of it and you did fail. And then she's like, oh well,
Wow.
there's dirt in the basement. It looks like it's mold, so you got to fix that. It was literally just dirt, and I'm like, I could wipe that off with like anything in
Yeah.
seconds. And there was like a door on the hot water tank, like those little doors this big. He's like, oh, that door's missing. I'm like, I could put this on in like 5 seconds. And then there
Yeah.
was because the basement was partially finished, they called out that the ceiling wasn't consistent all the way across. And I'm like, what are we talking about here? We're in a basement, and this was all in like my nicest house in my portfolio, and it failed for those four reasons. And I'm like, this is just a complete joke. So you have to deal with that too to some degree. Like some of these inspections could be complete jokes.
Yeah. That's seems like something's broken with that system where if they can just fail you for something like that and they're incentivized to do so. That's something's
Right.
broken, but they're also, I mean, the government's paying you there, so then they're also, I mean, there's something, yeah. That's something that has to be fixed.
I was instructed by the person at the housing authority office. She's like, just go ahead and fail the first inspection, and then they'll give you a list of what you actually have to worry about, and then do those
Okay.
things.
Yeah.
So if the organization themselves tells you to plan, and she said this verbally, right? It's not written. She's like,
Hmm.
if their goal, if their instruction is to just fail the first one and just cause a delay and inconvenience for everyone, if that's their actual instruction, it's screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they should have something called like a pre-inspection or something where they go through and tell you what should be fixed, and then they can fail you after that. I mean, that just terminology, but I mean, that would
Yeah.
make more sense than calling it a failure on your first one. But
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one thing you brought up is you have a workshop coming up in San
Yes, I
Diego.
do. Yes, thank you so much for reminding me. So I started doing this once a year. I only did it for the first time last year, but I have a full day workshop in San Diego on August 1st. 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the structured event, but then you can basically hang out until whenever you want. I'm going to talk about my story, some different things I use for motivation, inspiration. I also talk about how I acquired 50 units in that first year, then how I managed 2 flips at a time remotely, and how I'm transforming to doing 8 flips at a time, not remotely. I'll be there half the time and remote the other half of the time. And I think it's just a great story to learn from. It'll be a great networking opportunity. Obviously, everyone in the room is going to be highly motivated to find ways to make money in real estate. And no one has to exactly copy what I'm doing. You could take a note out of my book and then flip somewhere else, or wholesale to flippers like me, or become a lender, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all types of things that can be learned from this experience. And I hope to see you there. I only have 4 spots left.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity for somebody. Is it um is it for just local investors that, or could somebody fly out
Yeah, I
to
mean,
join in, or?
there's someone coming in from Sacramento. There's someone coming in from Alaska. There was someone
Oh
coming in
wow.
from Florida. They had to cancel. So one person's driving from Temecula. I think. So I only have 15 spots. It's a small venue, and I
Hmm.
wanted it to be small. Um, at least half of the people that signed up, so 6, are traveling at least an hour to get here.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so you had some variety, different markets and different people. That'd be cool. Yeah, I'd go if I was in the area, but I am.
Well, hey, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty dialed in too. So,
Yeah,
um,
I like to learn different things. So I like that's kind of like why I like doing this podcast. I get to hear
yeah,
different varieties of real estate, and like you said, even though people can come and they don't have to do the same thing that you're doing, like it can overlap, and they can take that and implement that into their business. So it doesn't have
definitely.
to be like when I'm listening to podcasts, it doesn't have to be like a land podcast. It can be different types of marketing or different types of acquisition or different types of real estate, because like you can take that and put it into your business. So yeah,
Well, I'm
definitely
curious.
somebody is.
Do you have a team? Like, do you have employees?
Yeah. So how I have it set up is three VAs. I have a
Mhm,
VA that does the kind of like operations, a VA that does the acquisitions, then one that does the dispositions. And then I have some people in the US that are on commission. So
mhm,
the basically like the setup is operations person. They're the ones who is pulling lists. They hand it off to the salesperson, who then is either cold calling them or texting or handling the email or direct mail. And then when the leads come back in, operations person or the salesperson qualifies them. If they're qualified, operations then doesn't gets an EMV, so estimated market value of the property. Uh, we don't have to go and do ARV or anything. It's just, what do we think the property's worth?
mhm,
Hands it back to the acquisitions person. They can go and make our offers. Generally, the offer is going to be, like I said, a third or less of what we think it's worth.
mhm,
Um, if they come to an agreement, then they hand it off again to operations. They put together the contracts, and then they send it to me so I can review it and sign it. And
mhm,
then once I sign it, then it goes off to the dispositions VA, who gets the pictures ordered and gets it
mhm.
posted for sale, like all of our different marketing channels. And then they also distribute it to our the people that we have on that go and market the property for, like in the US. So that's kind
What
of like the
country are
general flow.
what country are your VAs in?
Uh, Philippines for the operations and
Uh,
the dispositions, and then Egypt for acquisitions.
cool. Yeah, I have
Yeah,
a right now.
Egyptian's really good for no accent, but
Oh,
you
cool.
what
That's good
you
to
have,
know.
yeah, you said you have one as well, or a
Yeah, I
VA
have
that working
a
with you?
general assistant, and then my property manager is virtual too,
Okay,
and
cool.
yeah.
Okay,
But
nice. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
it's
it's
go ahead.
it's very helpful, and the Philippines is that's where I started with, because they're really good at operations and everything, but then with cold calling, it's a little bit. they just have a little harder of an accent in the Philippines compared to Egypt. If you need somebody on the phone, they can have basically no accent. So they're really good on the phone. So that's why I hired him there, and
I have
he's
a
great.
I have a very logistical question, and I assume it's, your operations VA, but how do you keep track of all the payments that are supposed to come in each month for the people that are, um, buying your land on seller finance?
Yeah, I built a tool with AI,
Oh,
basically. So it because I let people pay me basically anyway.
mhm,
So like they can Zelle me, they can Cash at me or whatever.
mhm.
So then I have it where all those accounts, they send the receipt whenever somebody pays me, it gets sent to a receipt in an email, and then that email, my AI extracts that and then it puts it into our spreadsheet.
You
So
vibe code it?
yep. Yep. Well, it used to
Nice.
just be a regular spreadsheet, and we'd have to go on manually. That was one of their tasks every week or every month was to go through and check through the spreadsheet and fill it out. But that's
Mhm.
something that AI can do now, so a lot easier.
Amazing, amazing. I'm doing rent reconciliation, and so I have to track both, um, Section 8 payments, which comes from the government, and then
Hmm.
Buildium Payments, which is my property management software, and then a couple people send in checks, a couple people send in cash apps. Um,
Okay.
but just good. Did you use Lovable?
Claude Code.
Cloud? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, AI
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah. Are you using it a lot in your business?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
run my internally I run my business on an app I built using Lovable. Um,
Nice.
so my property manager and rent reconciliation and transactions. So the idea was born out of like I knew I needed to have a transaction coordinator and I wanted them to use a tool because I've
Hmm.
had a few transaction coordinators and I'm like, I can't like reinvent the wheel every time I hire someone. And that role, it's similar to a sales role where you have to manage a bunch of different relationships. And I was like, well, there's no specialized CRM for transaction coordination. So I started building one with Lovable, and then that spiraled into okay, I'm also doing my property management on here and rent reconciliation on here. Eventually, I'll run my renovations through there too and maintenance. But I mean, I still have like 3 employees constantly using it, which is pretty cool considering I like have no coding experience.
Yeah. No, a couple of years ago, that would not have been possible. So it's a different time with real estate and what you can do. So it's cool.
Yeah.
But cool. Well, where should people find you if they want to? I mean, you gave them your phone number, but if they want to find you,
Yes.
what's your Instagram and other social media?
Yeah, I'm very active on Instagram. So Harry Gold underscore underscore. That's HARRYGOLD underscore underscore. Should be pretty easy to find. My TikTok is probably the same. And then that number is my office line, so you could call or text at any time, especially if you want to buy a turnkey home. Anything I sell will cash flow at least 20% cash on cash. So I don't know if you put down a 50K down payment, then you should make 10K a year net in cash flow. So that kind of stuff adds up. I'm always open to seller credits and that type of thing to lower your down payment. Um, but yeah, Instagram, Harry Gold, best way to find me.
Nice. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, and I'll just have you hang around a second after we end this.
Cool.
But appreciate your time, and yeah, it was interesting learning about how you grew so fast and everything you do.
Yeah.
So again, thanks.
Thank you. All right. Bye.